Yesterday, Daniil Dubov beat Liren in Set 1 of the semifinals of the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge 2020, and this was the Set 2. And in the first game, Liren is white, Daniil Dubov is black. So, who will win Set 2? The question is. Let's have a look. Ding is white, opens with 1 c4 in game 1, knight f6, g3, c6, bishop g2, d5, so-called Catalan if d4 happens. We'll see when it happens or if it does not. So up to now it's somewhat King's Indian ready opening because of the c4 being played. And now d takes c4. Now it becomes very important to capture this pawn, although white sacrifices this pawn with the aim of having a good center, establishing a great center, and this pawn eventually becomes a liability for black. So black gives this pawn up for a rapid development of its pieces. But okay, let's go. So he's not hurrying to take this pawn, instead focused on his development. Now he goes for knight a3, attacking the pawn, knight b6, defending the pawn, queen c2, bishop e6, and here he plays knight e5, ding. So which means he's really worried about this pawn, and especially this pawn's position, because now with this pawn being on c4, it's not possible to play d4 because now this en passant capture will ruin the pawn structure. So that's also a possibility. That's why he plays knight e5. Possibly he could have played other moves like e3 or h4 could have been a possibility, but nevertheless h5 by Daniil Dubov. So again he's pressing on the king side. We have seen on these games he looks like a fan of Simon Williams, always pushing Harry on the charge, as they say, and a lot of players are doing that. So now black gives this pawn back with his rapid attack on this king side. There we go, h4, knight comes to e5, h takes g, and suddenly black's intention is not to castle here, because that would bring this rook in the center and this h file will be gone for this rook. So he won't castle here, he would try to castle here, or perhaps he won't be trying to even castle. And now there is a very good initiative move by Daniil Dubov. Queen c8. Now his aim is very clear. Put this bishop here, threatening bishop h3. If you take, then queen h3 comes with authority, and it would be deadly for white, because you don't play for pieces, you only play for this block. If you get this block, everything is just a standing material, that's it. So he goes for rook d1, bishop h3 does come, bishop f3. So now this bishop stops the way of this rook and also of this queen. So by avoiding this capture, this capture and this recapture by the queen, so that's a good move. Bishop f3, g6 now from Dubov, possibly trying to play bishop g7, maybe not a bad idea. And now he should have played d4, ding, d4, bishop g5 or bishop f4 for that matter, just to try to gain some space in the center, and it would be better for white in this position. But he goes for b4, and I cannot understand. Possibly he's trying to flank to this bishop and try to put pressure on this long diagonal, but this is not the point of focus here, because after bishop g7, suddenly if this knight moves, let's say here, assuming not at the moment, or here, on d7, then this knight is pinned and this bishop is eyeing on this rook, the so-called the sniper eyeing on this rook. Bishop b2 covering this diagonal, king f8, no fuss, no hurry at all, just staying away from all those nonsense checks that might occur, or maybe any tactic by queen b3 or queen c4, simply block with e6, just staying away from the I squares, and also preparing to move this knight, so the king defends this bishop and finds a safe haven on this g7 square. a4, knight h7, there we go, the knight moves, and here he could have played queen c5 or maybe queen b3 or c4 for that matter, just to pressurize this, but then e6 comes and things aren't so clear. Maybe queen c4 and then any rook move on c1, that could have been better, but he goes for b5. Ding goes for b5, knight g5, so he continues his plan, and here Daniil Dubov has a very witty plan, and if he wants to save that, he could simply play queen c3 to save himself from this witty plan, and then comes bishop takes and then queen takes, and this rook is under threat and it won't be too easy. The only way to stop that would be f6, and who knows what happens then. But after knight g5 he plays b takes c6, so he basically overlooked a very witty tactic which was in the plans of Dubov. Can you spot that tactic? I'll give you some time, take a pause and think. So if you can find the tactic, brilliant, and if you just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop takes e5. Brilliant move by Daniil Dubov, because now this bishop can't be taken. If you take this bishop, then things turn deadly, and unfortunately Ding does take this bishop, and this leads to checkmating sequence. Again, I give you some seconds, take a pause and think, how can black finish it off here? So if you found it out, brilliant. If you just want to enjoy the show, it's knight takes f3 check, and there isn't a good way to defend this. If you play king h1, well, that is already disastrous, because after bishop f1 check from the rook, just give that rook, I don't need it. Queen h3 is checkmate, and e takes f3 was played in the game, but there comes another cheeky move that finishes the game off. Again, I will give you some time, take a pause and think what finished the game off. If you found out, brilliant. If you just want to enjoy the show, third time in a row, it's bishop g2, and after which Ding Liren resigns game number 1. Why did he resign? Simple move. King takes queen h3 is mate, not mate. After this, you just play queen h1 and it's checkmate. And no time for taking the rook, because queen h3 and the mate on h1 is unavoidable. So 1-0, Dubov wins game number 1. What happens in game number 2? This is the game number 2. I don't give away the result. So here Dubov is white, Liren is black. What happens? d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, the anti-Nimzo Indian, g3, again the Catalan, bishop check, Bogo Indian defense sort of line, then bishop d2, bishop e7, not sort of Bogo Indian, but still this is very well known, bishop g2, castles, queen c2, c6, h4 from Dubov, so he's pushing on the king's side, very good indeed, knight bd7, knight c3, pawn takes, rook d1, placing the rook against the queen, and now b5. So here it looks like Dubov is a pawn down, and he should be worried up, because he, instead of this move rook d1 after d takes, if white isn't quick enough, then this pawn can be again very useful for black, and black can simply be a pawn up. And that to stop that, he could have played a4 here, which he didn't, unfortunately. So he plays rook d1, and after b5 suddenly it's not easy to gain the pawn back. Knight e5, you can try everything that you want, but knight takes e5 and d takes e5, knight d5. Suddenly black looks very strong here. Liren has some chances, so he tries to put some pressure. Knight e4, f5, and pawn was taken en passant. G takes, and b3 by Dubov. Well, he should have castled it on the first place, but b3, again you are a pawn down. C takes b, a takes b, and then comes queen b6. So Liren is retaining his pawn advantage. Queen b6 defending the pawn on c6. So now Dubov castles a5, so he's pushing his queen side pawns. Liren, very good strategy indeed. It looks like at the start of this game it was, I think, Liren who could have won this game. But let's see. Rook c1, bishop d7, putting more protection on the c6 pawn. And now comes bishop h6, attacking the rook and also cramping this king, so that g7, something can land on g7 probably. In the good world, queen can come here. Not possible to come at the moment, but maybe can come here and protect squares. Let's see. Rook fc8, rook fd1, and a4, so he's pushing his extra pawn. Good move. B takes a, rook takes a, and now this rook is active on the a file, and it looks like with this extra pawn black would be winning. However, this exposed king can pose a lot of problems for black. Still not over. Extra pawn doesn't mean that the game is over. The game is in the balance still, although black will have the advantage, but not a decisive advantage. Maybe if he can convert it to a decisive advantage, that would be great. But let's see. Queen b2. Now this is a very cheeky move, as I say, because what black could try to do is to play f5 here to say the knight that's just get away from my territory, just to give this knight a little shake. But if you play f5, then something is landing on g7. You don't want that piece to come here with the support of this bishop. You know what it would be checkmate. So queen b2 is actually stopping this f5 move to kick this knight away. Rook b4, queen a1, still keeping the eye on g7, not letting black play f5. Queen d8, so he's trying to bring this queen via e8 and f7 to guard this g7 square. Rook c2, planning to double it on the c file. Queen e8, there we go. Knight c5, and here what the move being played, I don't like it. Maybe this knight was attacking this bishop, and he could have just taken this knight and get rid of all the nonsense that is there and be the pawn up, and who knows, he could turn that pawn into a winning advantage. Maybe it's long time for that, but still that could be possible. He plays queen g6. Of course, knight takes, you pick this bishop. So queen c1 defends this bishop on h6. Bishop takes c5. Knight was attacking this bishop, so eliminate that. Rook takes c5. And now if you are not careful, then things can turn very nasty indeed for black, even with the pawn up. Let's see what happens if you play f5 here. Well, if you play f5, then there is a witty tactic waiting for black. Rook d takes d5, e takes, and then comes bishop takes d5 check. Pawn takes will lead to rook takes, so not possible. If you block with the bishop, then rook takes c6, rook takes, and queen takes e6. Looking at the board, black is a rook up, or I should say exchange up. No time to play this because this would happen. It takes, and suddenly mating attacks start to appear. Well, the position can turn really deadly, and this rook sitting on this dark square, maybe a lot of tactics can come and to pick this rook up. So very deadly position that would be. So after rook takes c5, he plays king f7, and this gives a little bit of advantage to white, because now after h5 suddenly everything is looking apart, because after queen takes h5, do you notice something? e4, this knight is pinned. If it moves, then this bishop drops. Rook c4, rook takes c4, b takes e4, and bishop e3. Well, he could have taken this knight straight away, but he plays bishop e3, which isn't bad either, but knight takes, and now rook takes d7 check. King e8, queen d2, the only move. The rook was hanging, defending. Well, you can play c3 here just to divert this queen. Rook b8, f takes, and now his only hope after c3, queen d6, threatening mate. Looks like no defense to mate. Queen cannot retreat because rook will take. And also queen is attacking the rook. So the only thing that can go to his way is rook b1 check, bishop f1, rook takes f1 check, king takes f1, queen f3 check, king e1, and everything was going good for Ding. The game could have been ended in a draw here. This is a draw. But as it turns out, it wasn't. The only drawing move here was queen h1. Let's see what would have happened. Queen h1 check, king e2. This is the variation, not the game. And queen h5 check. So black is keep checking him, and now two options. If you go king d3 and eliminate this pawn, then this is the open license for this queen to give perpetuals. Let's see, king d3, queen d1 check, king takes c3, queen c1, king b4, queen b1, king c5, queen b5, and the king cannot escape perpetuals. Alternatively, after queen h5 check, king f2, queen h2 check, king f3, queen h1, king f4, queen f1, king g4, queen e2 check, king h3, queen h5 check, and then after queen g2, king g2, the same thing would happen, and the game would end in a draw. So queen h1 could have drawn the game, but wasn't played. Queen takes e3 check, and this was a blunder, because after king d1, queen f3 check, king c2, queen takes e4, and again the simple move was king takes c3. Queen d3, again miraculously for black, draws the game, because after queen a4 there's absolutely nothing that I can do. If you play king takes, then again this queen a5 check thing appears and everything could be drawn. Right, queen a4 check, king takes c3, and if he plays queen a5 check, it's a draw. But he plays queen a3 check, and now it's all gone. King d2, queen a5 check, king d1, queen h5 check, it's all in vain. King e1, queen e5 check, king f1, queen a1 check, and after king g2, Liren resigns the game, because the king will hide on h3 and there would be no checks at all. If you play queen a2 check, king h3, no checks, and queen d6, queen e7 will be end of the game. Or maybe queen takes pawn. So game number 2 belonged to Daniil Dubov again. So in the third game between Daniil Dubov and Liren, the game was drawn, and Daniil Dubov went through the final after winning set 2 as well. So we had the first finalist, and he is Daniil Dubov. So what happened between Carlsen and Nakamura? Well, the first game, the only decisive game was game 1, and rest of the 3 games after that were drawn. But the question was, who won that first game? Well, I think Carlsen would have won that game. But let's have a look. Who won this game? Hikaru is white, Carlsen is black. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6. The Berlin defense from Magnus. D3, bishop C5, bishop takes, pawn takes, castles, bishop G4, pin, H3, bishop H5, G4, and we have a first surprise here. Normally you see bishop retreating back to G6, but here the first surprise, Carlsen sacrifices this knight for 2 pawns, and this is something brilliant from Magnus, and to say this is very risky also, because if you don't get your play well and if there is any chance of queens getting off, then white will pounce on you. Bishop e3, bishop e7, and king h1. Well, king g2 would have been a better move, just to keep protecting this knight by the king and possibly trying to bring the rook here, giving this king some escape square via f1. Not to be, and now Carlsen takes full advantage of this exposed king. f5, rook g1, and now h5. So he's pushing everything, and knight c3 is a losing move from Hikaru, but let's see. f4, so closing this bishop forever for coming here. Bishop goes to d2, and now g5, so he's pushing his king side pawns. Probably if this bishop can give way for this queen to come here or to h3, then it would be the end for Hikaru. And he plays knight b1, which was baffling. Playing knight up and back, I didn't like it. Bishop c5, so putting more pressure here, and it isn't an easy way to defend this pawn. So he goes bishop c3, gives up this pawn. Knight b d2, of course trying to give this rook to give his king some room. Maybe that would be fine. He's getting rid of attacking pieces as much as he can, maybe better. But Carlsen goes queen e7, and if he gets this king to come here, and if this rook can come to g8, and yes, that would be game over for Hikaru. But let's see what happens. Queen f1 is trying to get rid of that bishop. Bishop takes, queen takes, so this brings queen at least to defend the king. But then comes bishop takes f3 check, knight takes f3, and now g4. Wow, so Carlsen is a piece down, as you can see, but look what he has. He has 3 pawns for the piece, and these 3 pawns are deadly dangerous for Hikaru now, because these 3 are 3 connected pass pawns, and if one root pawn is defended, then everything will fall apart with this exposed king, and things look very shaky indeed. Knight takes e5, rook g8, just getting out of the pin. Rook f1, queen g5 defends the pawn, queen d4, and probably this was another error from Hikaru. He just tries to prevent castling. But comes queen h4 check, king g1, queen g3 check, king h1, queen h3 check, king g1, and he wants to, if he can, he should have played queen g3 check. This is the variation, king h1, and then rook d8, and suddenly white is in a sutswang, cannot do anything, and he's gone for all money. No chance at all. See, queen f2 may be the last resort, but after queen takes queen h3, this queen cannot block because the rook is hanging, and king g1 is forced, and then f3, queen h2. You can even take get the queens off, and look at this pawn front, these 3 connected pass pawns just hovering over this white king. Maybe that would have been game over. But after king g1, Magnus plays g3, going for the mate on h2, which gives the chance knight f3, defending this mate. And suddenly all forces now combining and coordinating for white to defend this king. And with this knight sitting here, it is absolutely not easy how black can and can be able to manage another decisive attack on the white king. G2, he tries something here fancy, not coming. Rook e1, nothing to worry about. And now queen takes f3. Well, this was a huge mistake by Magnus because now this allows white to attack. Queen e5 check, king d8, queen f6 check, king e8, bishop b4 threatening mate, and looks like there is absolutely no defense. You can try to give up your queen, but it would be all over because black will run out of checks himself. c5 is just to delay the inevitable. Bishop takes, king d7, and after queen f7 check, Magnus Carlsen resigns the game. Wow. So Hikaru finally wins against Magnus. And after that 3-0 drubbing that he got in the previous set, he drew the next 3 games. Carlsen had some chances. People said there was a mouse slip in game 2. Maybe, who knows what would have happened. But he drew the last 3 games, and Hikaru won the set 2. So we will join back tomorrow again to see who will win set 3. I hope you like my video. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Cheers. Bye.